Hi friends, good evening. Please close your eyes. Online students, please type yes that you can hear me and see me. Chaliye, let's close our eyes for a brief moment. Chaliye, a quick recap. We had discussed globalization, and during which we had discussed what? What is globalization?
Globalization is the creation of global market.
Speak into the mic, please.
Creation of global market.
Creation of global market.
Promotion of free trade.
Free trade.
It's the movement of goods and services. From
free movement of goods, services, capital, labor, technology.
From different parts
across
of
the globe. Great. Pass it on. Bitya. Do we need a global sociology?
Yes, sir. According to W.E. Moore, we need a global sociology because events anywhere in the world affects men everywhere.
Wonderful. Pass it on. What do you understand by the term global village?
Sir, it was given by Marshall.
Pura naam?
Marshall McLuhan.
McLuhan.
Yes, sir.
Think
sir,
of it as like Lahu Luhan.
Sir, the whole world is like, because of globalization, whole world is like a village. There are regular interaction between people.
Very good. Yeah. Continue.
Close-knit ties between each other and all that.
Very good. How does globalization affect various aspects of our collective lives? Anyone?
Western culture आ गया है.
Western culture आ गया.
Language change हो गई है.
लैंग्वेज में जो बदलाव आए हैं उस पर थोड़ा प्रकाश डालिए.
हाइब्रिडाइजेशन हुआ है लैंग्वेज का.
हाइब्रिडाइजेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस हुआ. वेरी गुड.
इंग्लिश हो गई है.
पास इट ऑन. Which scholars have extensively written about? No, Betty, you? Yes, have written about the hybridization of languages.
Sir, absent.
Sorry?
Absent.
Please speak into the mic.
Absent.
Okay, then hand it over to your neighbor. हाँ बेटी.
Sir, Rita
Kothari. And? Then we write only Rita Kothari. Still works. Though it was like jointly authored by these two guys or compiled by these two guys. Rupert Snell. ठीक है? And what do they say?
Sir, उन्होंने मतलब कोई एक बुक है उसका टाइटल था चटनीफाइंग इंग्लिश.
क्या बोलते हैं इसमें?
सर इसमें हाइब्रिडाइजेशन मतलब जो मिक्स हो गई है लैंग्वेजेस इंग्लिश प्लस हिंदी उसके बारे में बताया उन्होंने.
तो आप भी बताओ.
इतना नहीं याद है.
ठीक है. बट शी हैज डेमोन्स्ट्रेटेड द यूज ऑफ इंग्लिश एंड हिंदी व्हेन शी स्पोक. है ना? पास इट ऑन. और बताइए.
सर अबाउट द इंग्लिश पार्ट.
Anything, any impact of globalization. It could be about English, could be about other. What is the social significance of this phenomenon?
According to J.P. Singh.
J.P. Singh.
Right. There's disintegration of joint family and nuclearization of families also happening.
So wasn't that also happening earlier?
So it was, but it has been accelerated.
It has been accelerated, very importantly. Great. Or?
And so the authority has been shifted from patriarch to the male earning member of the family.
To the adult male earning members. Great. Pass it on. Any other changes that you see as a result of globalization?
So I was absent.
How has globalization affected Indian farmers and agriculture that we did long back?
I couldn't recall.
Pass it on. Yes. Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Any impact of globalization on our society?
Sir, Anthony Giddens has said that world is getting closer and it is growing smaller.
ठीक है. और बताइए.
सर और नहीं याद है.
कुछ भी. पॉलिटिक्स पे, इकोनॉमी पे, कुछ तो इम्पैक्ट बताओ. फार्मर्स पे, कस्टमर्स पे, बिजनेसेस पे, वर्कर्स पे, किसी पे भी. ऑफ योर चॉइस.
I don't recall.
Okay, pass it on.
Yes, sir.
Any impact?
Yes, sir. So on farmers, for example,
on
farmers, Indian farmers. So in the new globalized world, there is an increasing.
Bitiya suno beta. Don't talk.
Countries have an increasing desire to capture more FDI, due to which countries are making, new laws which are less favorable for farmers, or in the form of contract
farming.
So such as the new farm laws that were forwarded by the Indian government.
Great.
So there is an increasing trend towards favoring industries and
big corporates
in such way. Yes.
Wonderful. Pass it on. और बताओ.
Sir, with globalization, there has been rise in civil society activism in India.
Yes.
Rise in forex reserves, tax collection.
Yes.
Which have facilitated the welfare activities of the state.
Wonderful.
Like the Right to Education Act 2002. And
2002
and 2009, the further amendment. 2002 में सर राइट एजुकेशन प्रॉपर वे में फंडामेंटल
2009 में एक्ट आया था. 2002 में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल 86 इफ आई रिमेंबर करेक्टली
86th amendment
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट था which made education a fundamental right by inserting article
20
Rajput boy 21A है ना. बिल्कुल. And RT Act was in 2009. ठीक है. Great. Pass it on. और
Sir, Yogendra Yadav says that globalization led to increased political administrative changes. Like
political administrative? Corruption. Why? You're right.
Yeah, sir. Ashish Nandi also said that SC/STs were caught more than others.
So why does it result in more political administrative corruption?
Sir, due to increased number of involvement of multiple.
साफ बात है, ज्यादा बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स लग रहे हैं तो उसके लिए ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर करप्शन हो रही हैं. ठीक है. पास इट ऑन. और बताइए. पास इट ऑन एंड आप बताइए.
सर और तो खत्म हो गया.
खत्म हो गया. हो गया
सर. फूड हैबिट्स बच रही हैं.
हाँ तो बता दो
सर. जैसे मोमो कल्चर, पैकेज फूड. और नई नई चीजों का ट्रेंड आ रहा है. मतलब
क्या नई? बताओ. सही कह रहे हो. पैकेज फूड हो रहा है. और
जैसे सर वेस्टर्न वियर, शर्ट, पैंट्स.
खाने की पीने की बात करो तो जरा.
सर दोनों.
चलो दोनों कर लो.
वेस्टर्न वेयर में इन्फ्लुएंस आ रहा है.
वेस्टर्न वेयर पहन रहे हैं हम.
तो सर हमारा कल्चरल डिक्लाइन हो रहा है. मतलब जो इंडियन कल्चर है धोती कुर्ता का.
ठीक है. धोती कुर्ते का कल्चर लुप्त हो रहा है ना. ठीक है. आर वी डन?
यस.
टेल मी व्हाट इज लेफ्ट. स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन. तो आप नहीं, उन्हीं के पास चलते हैं. स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन का बताओ. यू आर मिसगाइडिंग. हाउ इज द स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन सिस्टम बीन अफेक्टेड?
सर पहले कास्ट पे ज्यादा एम्फेसिस होता था, अब क्लास पे हो रहा है.
ठीक है. शिफ्ट इन एम्फेसिस फ्रॉम कास्ट टू क्लास एज द बेसिस ऑफ स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन. ग्रेट. पास इट ऑन. अदर इम्पैक्ट्स ऑन स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन.
Globalization has a significant impact on workers' life.
On?
Workers' life. Industrial workers.
Clever boy, जो पूछ रहा हूँ वो बताइए. How does it affect the stratification system?
Middle class has expanded.
Middle class has expanded greatly. Says who? which scholars have written extensively about the explosion in the ranks of the middle class. What is this middle class which has newly emerged during globalization known as?
Sorry, I can't recall.
What is this newly emerged middle class called?
New middle class.
Very good. New middle class. Pass it on. Which scholars have highlighted this explosion in the ranks of the middle class? We discussed earlier. Come on, yeah. Leela.
Fernandez.
Speak in the mic.
Fernandez,
but you just heard others and said. Okay, so don't speak. Gurcharan. Are? Gurcharan.
Sir, Das.
Das. It defeats the purpose. Pass it on. Or, whoa. Pavan. Verma, very good. हाँ, ठीक है. और बताइए, what's happening to the capitalist class?
According to Arjun Appadurai, five dimensions.
I'm asking you what's happening to the capitalist class in India during globalization.
Social base expanded.
Says who? Wonderful.
I'm not able to recall.
What's the process called? When from various other castes and communities other than the traditional trading castes, when you have Vaishyavization. Says who? Pass it on. Says who?
Recalling.
Pass it on. Says who?
Sir, R. Vaidyanathan.
Wonderful. R. Vaidyanathan. Pass it on. And another guy who's written about the, people from various castes and communities joining the ranks of entrepreneurs and businessmen.
Sorry, sir.
Starts with D, like the surname starts with D. The initials are HD. Who? Everybody is blank, like equally.
Sir, Damodaran.
Damodaran. Very good. Great. चलिए खत्म. अब चलते हैं जीवन में आगे. Now discussing briefly the historicity of the process of globalization. The historicity of the process of globalization. So when did we really open up our economy? When did we integrate the Indian economy into the world capitalist economy? During early 1990s, when the economic reforms were initiated by the Narasimha Rao Manmohan Singh government, precipitated by the forex reserves crisis. Latecomer, tell me something. What does this global justice now, what did that talk about? So take a guess. God. In such cases we say, I don't know. What did global justice now say? Very good. Out of the 100 largest economic entities in the world, 69 were corporates and 31 were countries. So they highlighted the concentration of wealth and the emergence of a global economic elite, and how that is detrimental for human rights, climate, equity, all of that. We have written about it earlier. Now coming back to the historicity, and we said that globalization began with the economic reforms of early 1990s. 90s, precipitated by the forex reserves crisis. Yes or no? No. Very good. TK? That's TN Madan. TK? Woman. Very good. TK woman, not woman. Woman. Double O, double M, EN. Okay? TK woman. He says that globalization is a centuries old process. It didn't begin in 1990s. It's much older. And it has passed through various phases as follows. The first phase. So globalization began during the 16th century, way back in the 16th century. First phase was from 16th century till the end of the Second World War. First phase of globalization, according to Uman, was from 16th century till the end of the Second World War. Theek? During this phase, the main agent of globalization was European colonizing powers. Right? So it was through colonialism that different parts of the world were interconnected. Political, economic relations were established. Cultural elements from European culture spread to various parts of the world. Yes or no? इंडिया में इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज आई, अंग्रेजों की कटलरी से चम्मच और फोक से हमने खाना खाना सीख लिया, टेबल पे बैठ के धरती के बजाय. यस और नो? इसी तरह जहां फ्रेंच कॉलोनीज थी वहां फ्रेंच लैंग्वेज गई, फ्रेंच क्विजीन गया, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. है ना? पोर्चुगीज, स्पेनिश, डच, सबने डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड में इकोनॉमिक टाइज एस्टैब्लिश किए, पॉलिटिकल कॉन्क्वेस्ट किया, कल्चरल डिसेमिनेशन किया. ठीक? द सेकेंड फेज was the Cold War period. मतलब एंड ऑफ सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर से लेके टिल दी डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ यूएसएसआर, दोज 4-5 decades. सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर कब खत्म हुआ था? 1945 ऑड, आई थिंक, है ना, नियर अबाउट. ठीक है. Now during this time, there were two principal agents of globalization. What were the two main agents of globalization? Bilkul. The two superpowers, USA and USSR. Both spread their respective ideologies, their respective politico-economic systems to different parts of the world. ठीक? Clear? So the Soviets propagated communist ideology, communist system, centralized planning, centralized planned economy, 5-year plans, all of that. The US propagated laissez-faire या free market economics, liberal democratic political system. है ना? The third phase is the present phase. मतलब after the disintegration of USSR. In this phase, the sole agent of globalization is yes, the sole superpower, United States of America. ठीक. So what we typically consider as the only period of globalization is only the latest phase in a centuries old process. It began with colonialism, and today what we see since 1990s is only the latest avatar of the process of globalization. Okay? So during the present phase, American culture, say through Hollywood movies, American type liberal democracy, notion of human rights, capitalism, all of that is being promoted. Okay? In the present phase. Amartya Sen, he says globalization is a new term for a very old process. कब से हो रहा है? हाँ, since millennia. It is a millennia old process. कोई नई बात थोड़ी ना है. Thousands of years ago, friends, think of the ancient Silk Route. Trade and commercial ties between people, exchange between people in vastly distant regions. Yes or no? कहां से जाता था? चाइना से, इंडिया से, अरब वर्ल्ड से, यूरोप, जहां जहां भी था. आई मे बी फैक्चुअली लिटिल ऑफ, बट पॉइंट इज इट वाज वेरी लंबा चौड़ा. इवन से हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन की जो साइट्स थी, दे वर फाउंड टू हैव ट्रेड टाइज विद द आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड. So trade and commerce लोगों को कब से जोड़े हुए हैं. It's not a new phenomenon. Likewise, diplomatic ties have existed between different parts of the world since ages. Think of a Megasthenes. Think of a Fahain, Yunsang, numerous others. Travelers, traders, diplomats, kings' representatives, political conquest. Yes or no? यही तो होता है ग्लोबलाइजेशन. Spread of culture. For example, the spread of various religions. Whether it is the outward spread of Buddhism and Hinduism from the Indian soil. Yes or no? साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में आपको मिलेंगे. इंडिया से गए. महिंद को अशोक ने भेजा था श्रीलंका. His son Mahind he sent as a Buddhist emissary. Or it is the spread of Christianity and Islam. So these religions, they developed in the very hot Jerusalem soil. Yes or no? But spread to various parts of the world. So globalization is a new term for a millennia old phenomena, wherein different parts of the world have exchanged goods, emissaries, people, and elements of culture. ठीक? Indian philosophy regards or believes in the notion of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. No, independent of Amartya Sen. Believes in the notion of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. अर्थात meaning the world is one family. Vasudha, referring to the earth. Kutumb, meaning family. So it is as if the whole earth is one family. That would be a literal translation. In other words, friends, we've always had a very open, accepting and inclusive approach towards other peoples and other cultures. है कि नहीं? The Indian worldview has always cautioned against the Koop Manduk mentality. Koop Manduk. Meaning, Koop meaning kuan. Manduk matlab mendak. Meaning it has been wary of the frog in the well mentality. Sorry, I said the Indic worldview has been wary of the Koop Manduk mentality or the frog in the well attitude. Which means what? मतलब कुएं का मेंढक मत बनो. Do not restrict your vision to your immediate surroundings. There is a big wide world out there to be explored. Are you with me? तो हम कब से हैं? हम तो पैदाइशी ग्लोबलाइज्ड हैं. ठीक है ना? चलिए अब ये बताइए, दिस प्रोसेस ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन अच्छा है या बुरा है? What do you make of it in your assessment? Do you think it's a positive thing to have happened to the world? Particularly the present phase of it, 1990s and onwards wala. Is it a welcome development या फिर काश ना ही हुआ होता? Is that your thought? कि बीते दिन याद आते हैं. Vote either ways, yeah. How many of you look at globalization positively? Largely positively. Okay, and why? Why is it a positive development? Huh? हमारे लिए बोलो आप. It is positive. Why? Like, so we've benefited in terms of technological advancement. So even those things which we did not invent, we have benefited from immensely. हाँ? और बताइए, brother. Roe versus Wade judgment in the US. हाँ. हाँ. So, हाँ. So how do you link that to globalization? ठीक है. So many court judgments, in fact, in India, they quote extensively from international precedents. Huh? Huh. From a common man's perspective, she is saying life has become much simpler. In what sense? So better communication and transportation technologies. मैं गरीब से गरीब इंसान हूँ, मेरे फोन में WhatsApp है ना? Which is a hell of a, it's a marvel of a technology. हाँ, और बिटिया, globalization is so we are kind of reaping synergies, globally, and benefiting from complementarities across peoples. Bitia? How do you? So people have now access to vast amounts of knowledge and information, which helps them arrive at decisions. So people have been empowered with knowledge and information. One of the students online is commenting, had there been no globalization, we would have been riding Bajaj, Chetak and Luna. हाँ, और बताइए, brother. We've become environmentally sensitive. Environmental impact assessments we conduct for all projects. Bitya. We learn from others' mistakes, such as, illustrate with some example. So let us say the subprime crisis in the US was a lesson for other countries not to, develop or engineer such complex financial instruments. So the young population benefits from the job opportunities provided by a globalized economy. How many of us are somewhat circumspect about this whole process of globalization? कि ये शायद सही नहीं हुआ, perhaps we may have been better off without it. Or you have serious apprehensions regarding this whole process. कि चीजें कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई. Brother? Yeah. So there is a power asymmetry in the world. Some countries are far too powerful and setting the global agenda. America assumed the role of a global policeman. है ना? हर जगह डंडा लेके पहुंच जाता था. सद्दाम हुसैन, you are not behaving. तालिबान, you are not behaving. कल्चरल डिग्रेडेशन क्या मतलब? हम अपने कल्चर से दूर जाने लगे. सो घर का खाने की तरफ से हम फास्ट फूड कल्चर पे शिफ्ट हो रहे हैं. चाइनीज, पिज्जे, बर्गर, मोमोज. हाँ, फूड हैबिट्स. सो व्हाई इज इट प्रॉब्लमैटिक? हो रही है तो हो रही है. पहले मैं रोटी खाता था, मैं पिज्जे खाता हूं, क्या दिक्कत है? ठीक है. हाँ, सो IMF ने पाकिस्तान को ब्लैकमेल किया, ब्लंटली पुट. हाँ ब्रदर. Oil embargoes. So it does not suit the international politics of a US. The world is held to ransom due to high oil prices. Absolutely. And high oil prices, very rightly pointed out, have a domino effect throughout the economy. Everything becomes costlier. Yes. For no fault of theirs, people's, in far off lands, household savings will be wiped out due to, these bankers in the US playing their dirty tricks. We were worse before the third phase. But if it were to be stopped, then it should have been before the first phase. Okay, so we should have, if globalization were to be stopped, it should have been stopped before colonialism. Due to various changes in diet, life becomes uncertain, especially amongst the well-off people. So we're eating increasingly unhealthy. That's what is being suggested. Money, yes. So India could not develop a manufacturing base. To a service sector dominated. But then, frankly, you win some, you lose some. In this sense, it's your fault as a country. Okay, or China had a competitive edge. And that's what is, what sells in a globalized market economy. You can't expect a free lunch. China offered certain advantages for investments in its manufacturing sector, which India did not have. So why should one complain about it? Yeah, rue it. ठीक है. ठीक है, so it's a mean, exploitative system, brother. Globalization is like neo-colonialism. Bilkul. Sorry, we've become a dumping ground. Bilkul. One of these students has made a very interesting point. I seek your inputs on this. He says globalization will be good if India becomes a superpower. What do you make of it? If we are in the driving seat or the hot seat, then perhaps we'll be more welcoming of the process of globalization. The same technology which has connected the world together has now created various threats like cyber threats. ठीक है. So friends, this process of globalization is widely perceived, even by its most stringent critics, to be at the very least irreversible. ठीक है? So it is here to stay. There is no wishing away globalization. It has happened sufficiently, and it is only further, global integration is only further deepening. Right? Nevertheless, friends, the process of globalization, and of course its benefits have been popularly pointed out, such as greater economic growth and so on and so forth, which many of you also listed. But despite those, its several concerns have been expressed regarding the nature of the process of globalization as follows. So several serious criticisms and concerns have been expressed regarding globalization as follows. क्या criticisms हैं? पहला, globalization is criticized as Coca-colonization. Coca-colonization. Coca-cola लिख के लास्ट के ए को ओ कर दो और colonization. Coca-Cola. It represents American cultural hegemony across the globe. Are you with me? So when we say Coca-colonization, it indicates that globalization results in the further spread and dominance of American culture, thereby threatening and possibly wiping out cultural diversity across the globe. You know, in different parts of the world, different regions, different peoples have different ways of life, different cultures. Now that is considered to be under an imminent threat. Simply, bluntly, we are all becoming cheap copies of Americans. Say our language, our clothing, our eating habits. Yes or no? हम अमेरिकन कपड़े पहनते हैं, हम अमेरिकन भाषा बोलते हैं, अमेरिकन एक्सेंट में बोलते हैं, अमेरिकन एंटरटेनमेंट कंज्यूम करते हैं. आर यू विद मी? हॉलीवुड मूवीज देखते हैं, है ना? In olden days, friends, or prior to this period of globalization, you know, just to give you a sense of the cultural diversity, within India also you have a very rich tapestry of cultures. Yes or no? So, Malayali culture is very different from Punjabi culture, which is very different from Kashmiri culture, very different from Assamese or Bengali culture. For instance, if in olden days a guest would visit my house in Kerala, I would offer him nariyal pani. If he would visit my house in a Punjab, I would offer him lassi, as the stereotypes go. But today, the nariyal pani in Kerala households and the lassi in Punjab has been replaced by Coca-Cola. Yes or no? तो अब गेस्ट आता है, हम क्या देते हैं? चाय. वाओ, चाय भी इंडियन नहीं है, Chinese. Huh? But point is, it has been replaced by this cultural import. Thanda matlab Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola company claims on its website, friends, that Coca-Cola is the second most recognized word in the whole world across languages, cultures and regions. दुनिया में सब लोग पहचानते हैं कोका-कोला. Second most. First being okay. Okay is like more this thing, commonly understood across languages and cultures. Second word being Coca-Cola. कहीं भी चले जाओ, आप सोचो मैं सन्यास लेके पहाड़ों पे चले जाऊंगा, वहां पे भी पत्थर पे क्या पेंटेड मिलेगा? In red, Coca-Cola. Yes or no? So there is no escaping Coca-Cola or American cultural hegemony which it represents. So fast food, soft drinks, aerated soft drinks, blue jeans, Hollywood movies, all of this represents American soft power. How it has seduced people across the globe. People seduced by American culture are leaving their own cultures and adopting an increasingly Americanized way of life. ठीक? ब्लू जीन्स पहनते हो नहीं पहनते हो, वही कूल है. अमेरिका में माइन वर्कर्स के लिए बनी थी, ये जात हुई थी, ये टफ सी, रगड काइंड ऑफ क्लॉथ. यहां पे हम उसको महंगा और बढ़िया मान के पहनते हैं. ठीक? सो हर चीज में इंग्लिश मूवीज नहीं समझ आएगी तब भी देखते हैं. ऐसे देखते नहीं है, पढ़ते हैं इंग्लिश मूवीज. यस और नो? And it's not just in India, across the globe. Yeah, You will find this. You go to Southeast Asia. Okay, a lot of cultural diversity was there originally. Korean culture, Indonesian culture, very vibrant, very diverse. Vietnamese, Japanese. They also have been Americanized to a very large degree. Indian people are now, for example, watching K-dramas, K-pop. K-pop is very similar to Western pop music. देखें K-pop videos? या गाने सुने हो जो उनकी धुन होती है, जो उनकी कोरियोग्राफी होती है, पिक्चराइजेशन होती है, very simple, very templated. Yes or no? So ये जो pop music culture है, fast food culture है, all of that. These are elements of American cultural hegemony which are wiping out the cultural diversity of the world. ठीक? Resulting in cultural homogenization या flattening of the globe. Secondly, friends, globalization is disturbing the traditional social structures. Disturbing the traditional social structures. And diluting traditional identities. Whether it is the caste system being replaced by class as a form of stratification, whether the joint family system being under strain, yes or no, whether it is the village community, whether it is the tribal identity, these are now all under pressure from the forces of globalization. But why is that problematic? Why is that a criticism of globalization? Or look at it this way, in what way do traditional structures like those of caste, kinship, the village community, joint family, what benefit they served? Please appreciate, friends, these traditional structures and identities are a source of stability in the society. They provide anchor. They give a sense of belongingness. So that stability, that order, that sense of belongingness, which these traditional structures and identities provide, are no more available. Therefore, in the globalized world, things seem always in a state of flux, ever changing. It seems nothing is permanent. There is no sense of permanence or stability. Yes or no? सब कुछ लग रहा है हमेशा उथल पुथल हो रहा होता है. Globalization, may I? Globalization is also criticized for being a one-way street. It's a one-way street. Matlab, only the non-Western cultures are being affected by Western culture, not the other way around. the Western culture is being imposed on the non-Western peoples. Yes or no? So Indians and Koreans and Japanese and Africans have been Americanized. Americans have not been Indianized or Japaneseized or whatever the word would be. Huh? Now please appreciate, whom does it... it's a loss for the non-Western cultures because they get disconnected from their roots, but it is also a loss for the Western world because they do not benefit from what they could have had they adopted elements from the non-Western culture which are worthy of emulation. Right? So they are devoid of those benefits. They are deprived of those benefits. जो हमसे वो सीख सकते थे, जो हमें non-Western cultures में गुण थे, अच्छी बातें थी, जिनको अडॉप्ट करके उनको फायदा होता, वो नहीं हो रहा. ठीक? The traditional knowledge that the local communities have been using since generations, that is now being patented by multinational corporations. हल्दी को इस्तेमाल करने के तरीके अब गोरे हमें बताएंगे, ये बड़ी बड़ी एमएनसी हमें बताएंगी. हमारी माएं, दादियां, परदादियां मुफ्त में they have passed down this traditional knowledge. Yes or no? But MNCs are now trying to monetize what was earlier freely available knowledge of the local communities. वंदना शिवा कैसी लेडी हैं ये? वेरी गुड, इको फेमिनिस्ट लेडी हैं ये. सो शी पॉइंट्स आउट दैट ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज एनवायरमेंटली डिस्ट्रक्टिव. So, the natural resources are extracted at an unsustainable rate. By the MNCs. Yes or no? Globalization promotes which economic system? Capitalism. कैसा capitalism? Patriarchal capitalism. Patriarchal capitalism. हाँ. In which women's bodies are commodified. Whether it is in pornography, which is a billions dollars industry today, whether it is advertising, fashion, entertainment. Yes or no? Sorry? Jobs में भी होता है, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. globalization has also been criticized as neocolonialism. It's a neocolonial project. No murmur, please. Neocolonialism, bitia. As a colonialism by other ways. So colonialism formally ended mid of 20th century. But that is being carried out in the guise of globalization since then. Economic exploitation of the third world countries is being perpetuated even after the end of colonialism through new mechanisms like the global financial architecture, World Bank, IMF, through technology dependency. So the developed Western countries, they perpetuate their dominance over the global economy. ठीक? Shiva argues that it should not only there should be free trade, but also, what is the slogan of the developing world? Not just free trade, but also fair trade. Not just free trade, but also fair trade. Meaning what? That in the name of free trade, do not impose unfavorable terms of trade or exchange on the third world countries. Otherwise, in the name of free trade, the third world countries are dealt they are shortchanged. Simply, if you provide a completely level playing field across countries to companies of the West and third world countries, the third world countries will not be able to withstand. For example, if we throw open our agriculture sector, Indian farmers' ki productivity is no way comparable to or competitive enough to the productivity of farmers in the West, because they enjoy far greater economies of scale, better technology, so many things. Okay, so trade should not just be free, it also should be fair. Activists like Shiva argue for what is termed as alter globalization. Alter globalization. Matlab, an alternative form of globalization. Globalization should change, simply. Presently, globalization is heartless, ruthless. The globalization in its present form entails heartless, ruthless promotion of which mechanism? Free market. Yes or no? Of the free market mechanism. Now this free market mechanism, which is promoted by the forces of globalization, it benefits those who, or it serves those who have the capacity to participate in the market. Matlab, those who have purchasing power. Their needs are served. by the market mechanism. But those sections of the society who do not have purchasing power, they are pushed to the margins. Yes or no? So whose interests are served by globalization? Who benefits? Sorry? Not just the capitalists, even the middle class, we benefit. So if I have money in my pocket that I can buy shirts, thanks to globalization, I have access to a huge variety of shirts of good quality, etc. But what if I don't have money in my pocket? Yes or no? So what we need is globalization with a human face. So globalization, its impact should not be evaluated only in terms of numbers, economic growth. The process of globalization must be made more humane. I'm being asked to repeat the argument of Vandana Shiva on free trade. She had said that trade should not just be free, it should also be fair for the developing world. Completely unbridled trade between the developed and the developing world will end up favoring the MNCs typically based in the West. So trade terms should not just be free, they should also be fair. Fair matlab they should be just and reasonable. They should take into account, the trade terms of trade should take into account the unique developmental concerns of the developing countries. ठीक? हमारे यहाँ, for example, friends, agriculture is not just, it's not about profits. It's about sustenance. Yes or no? It's a source of livelihood for millions who are on the brink of poverty. So even the slightest, so it's not just, you can't have ruthless market competition. You're talking about human lives which are, surviving, just about surviving, based on or eking out a living through agriculture. So you have to be considerate of that human dimension. What impact it will have on human lives and livelihoods. Last क्या लिखा था हमने? Globalization with a human face. ठीक है? Not just confined to numbers or economic growth, but the social impact of globalization. Not only globalization, ignore the concerns of the marginalized, it may even aggravate their problems. Globalization possibly aggravates the problems of the marginalized sections of the society. Such as tribals who are displaced for large-scale mining projects. Yes or no? Farmers who are dispossessed of their lands. the urban poor, who anyways live their lives in pitiable conditions. Women who are anyways bearing the brunt of traditional patriarchy. ठीक है? Globalization is also criticized for having given birth to many new global problems. अगर प्रोसेस ग्लोबल है तो उसकी जनरेटेड प्रॉब्लम्स भी ऑफ अ ग्लोबल नेचर एंड स्केल है. Such as international human trafficking, international drug cartels, international terrorism, ozone depletion, climate change. Last but not the least, which is most fresh in our collective memories, the pandemic. ठीक है? तो ये सब किसकी देन है? ग्लोबलाइजेशन, है ना? नाउ आई लाइक टू नो मर्मर बिटिया, like to dwell a bit on this particular question and seek your inputs as well. Whether globalization is likely to result in cultural flattening या homogenization. Is it a real threat to the cultural diversity of the globe? Or is it a bogey? Bogus bogey at that, which is being raised. Is it like fear mongering, or is it really happening? What do you say on this issue? What is your sense, friends? How many of you are of the view ki it's real? It's not fear mongering, it's really happening. And ठीक है, it's a real threat, it's a very real imminent concern. Why? क्यों आप ऐसा मानते हो? बताइए. No, not you, brother. In that polo cap. हाँ, बताइए. आप क्यों कह रहे हैं कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन से कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी को खतरा है? लैंग्वेज को देख लीजिए. क्या? इंग्लिश ही इंग्लिश फैल रही है हर जगह. और बताइए. पटाखे छुड़वा दिए हैं. चलो. हाँ. Earlier he used to burst crackers from 2 months before Diwali. Now he does so only on the day of Diwali. Huh? And that is also they are hard to come by. You know, because of the bans and works. Huh? And why is that? Why do you attribute that, bete, CK, to globalization? So you're saying कि अब पटाखे बन जाने में वो मजा वजा नहीं है. हाँ, okay. हाँ, I thought it's because of the Supreme Court ruling and no. He's like I don't care. हाँ, ये सब किताबी बातें हैं. लक्ष्मीकांत तक ठीक है. हाँ, but you're saying so as you've aged, you've lost interest in bursting crackers. हाँ, for the most part. हाँ, younger generation. आप भी यंग ही हो काफी. हाँ, और बताइए ब्रदर. पुश बैक. फीफा वर्ल्ड कप. व्हाट हैपेंड? Qatar was hosting the World Cup and they declared that there should be no PDA because it's against our culture. Okay, they have this for LGBTQIA plus PDA. All right. So LGBT rights movement also is possibly an outcome of, or its incessant visibility is possibly an outcome of globalization. And some countries, some cultures are resisting that. Continue. Yeah. Such as? Okay, so the Western liberal democratic model is sought to be imposed by coercion through the barrel of the gun on non-Western cultures where it is proved to be a failure. ठीक है. Bitya, you had raised your hand? Personal observation. They are worse. In which ways? Our ceremonies and festivals are getting westernized. In what sense? Have we started wearing like those white gowns and all? We have. God. Acha, red lehengas have been replaced by pastel colors, whitish. No crosstalk, Bityas. Is it children or is it like you are pinning the blame on the next generation? What about yours? What about you? Don't you think it's cooler or whatever to wear Western attire? Really? It's not like personal, but it's to you, all of you. Personal, but to all of you. Sorry? What was the comment? Oh, acha. Vitya. Yes. Ethnic wear has become only for festive occasions. है ना? Daily wear is now Western wear. For most of us, our daily wear is Western style clothing. Yes. Of unwanted and not positive kind of attention. If you wear a sari or a dhoti or a lungi, any of that. Cake cutting, whether it is in weddings or birthdays. नहीं, birthdays में भी western influence ही तो है. हमारे यहाँ खीर खिलाते थे. या हलवा बनता था. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ring ceremony, so many things when it comes to weddings. Pre-wedding shoots for the rich. Pornography. Okay, but the point was slightly different that we were discussing whether this is leading to globalization is resulting in cultural homogenization. Perhaps you're suggesting we're all watching the same pornography, huh? Across the world, huh? Indians watch mostly, huh? ठीक है, वो तो हम हैं ही इतने सारे. We have the strength of numbers, हाँ brother. Let him make his point, please. हाँ. तो सिर्फ कुर्ता मत पहन के आना बेटे. पजामे के पैसे नहीं थे तो सिर्फ कुर्ता ऑर्डर कर दिया. हाँ? होता तो लंबा है बट फिर भी इट विल बी अ लिटिल ऑड, है ना. और बताइए. हाँ हाँ ब्रदर. हाँ हाँ guys please listen. हाँ forced to shittily, sorry, shut in Italy. Domino's was forced to shut, you're saying, in Italy. Why was it boycotted? Acha, they were putting pineapple on the pizza in Italy. Domino's did it. I thought it was just a online trend or something. Acha, I was not at all aware of this. Huh? Acha. And so what do you make of it? Or what do you read into it? अच्छा, there is a backlash against this thing. हाँ, और बताइए. How many of you feel threatened by globalization? अच्छी हिंदी बोलने में शर्म आती है. आएगी तो बोलेंगे ना, पर अगर आती भी है, but I take pride in speaking टूटी फूटी हिंदी, है ना, and fluent English. Sorry, when you do so. ठीक है. So if you are only speaking the native tongue, you'd be considered घाटी of sorts. ठीक है. So people don't take pride in their native language. हाँ, बिटिया. इंडियन कल्चर सिमट के रह गया है ओकेजन्स पे, स्मॉल डोमेन्स में. हाँ, जैसे स्कूल में हम इंडियन वेयर कब पहनते हैं? टीचर्स डे होता है जब ग्रेजुएट कर रहे होते हैं या यू लिविंग दी स्कूल, उस टाइम में सिर्फ, है ना. एंड इट्स लाइक अ बिग ओकेजन. वाओ, वी आर वेयरिंग कुर्ता एंड पजामा, हाँ, या साड़ी. In Bihar, women put a lot of orange sindoor during the wedding ceremony. They are somewhere ashamed of being sported, of sporting orange sindoor. ठीक है, ठीक है. Yes, brother. We've adopted boyfriend girlfriend culture. बिल्कुल दूर रहना इससे. एंड लड़कियों सब इस लड़के से दूर रहना. हाँ 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 A single person is seen with suspicion. Suspicion as in? क्यों single हो? क्योंकि मैं ugly हूं. So, if I'm not, desirable, what do I do? अच्छा, single persons are mocked. Is it that common? हमारे टाइम में तो बहुत रेयर होता था to have a date in life. हाँ? तो हम लोग झूठ बोलते थे. हमारे टाइम में वो कल्चर था झूठ बोलने का कि हाँ. हाँ? Is it very common? Is it that common nowadays that those who don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they are looked at with suspicion or mocked at? Suspicion as in their sexuality is suspect, हाँ कि gay है या अच्छा they are mocked, हाँ ठीक है. In fact, Asaram Ji Bapu, he started this thing. He suggested that we should replace Valentine's Day celebrations with, or we should celebrate it as Matri Pitri Pujan Divas. That's like our culture, worshipping, loving our parents instead of this boyfriend girlfriend culture. ठीक है. TK, हाँ brother, then we'll come to TK. हाँ हाँ law of conservation of energy. Yes. Yes. So Eurocentric knowledge, Western languages, knowledge, information emanating from or stamped by Westerners are prized, while Indian knowledge, Indian sources of knowledge, Indian languages are looked at increasingly with suspicion. अभी रिसेंटली एक कंट्रोवर्सी हुई थी कि वो जो मेडिकल काउंसिल है उसने धन्वंतरी को अपने लोगों में दर्शाया, रिप्लेसिंग सम ग्रीक गॉडेस आई सस्पेक्ट, एंड देयर वाज अ ह्यू एंड क्राई ऑन दैट. ठीक है. टीके उमन. He says that it is highly unlikely that globalization will result in one world culture. Matlab, it is highly unlikely that it will result in, flattening of cultures across the globe. Why? Reason being because there are 4 social processes taking place simultaneously during globalization. There are 4 social processes underway simultaneously, as follows. One, of course, is homogenization. One of the processes is homogenization. So many elements of Western culture, they have today found a global appeal. They are being adopted by non-Western peoples across the globe. Several elements of Western culture are being adopted by non-Western peoples. क्या चीजें हैं जो बहुत सारे नॉन वेस्टर्न कल्चर्स अडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं? ब्लू जीन्स फॉर इंस्टेंस, फास्ट फूड, You look at something as fundamental of how we look at time and days and, the Gregorian calendar. That has become the standard globally. So many cultures, including ours, we had our own local lunar calendars. विक्रम संवत और ये वो जो हमने छोड़ दिए हैं. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं, है ना. Hollywood movies, they find a global audience, right? The nuclear family form. So many things. ठीक. A lot of Western technology. WhatsApp है, Facebook है, YouTube है. ये तो सिर्फ recent की बात है. Printing press है, steam engine है. कब से? But please appreciate, this process of homogenization is not taking place in isolation. Along with it, had it only been this process, it would have possibly resulted in a single culture throughout the globe. But this process is accompanied by other processes such as, second, traditionalization. So, in many parts of the world, people are reinvigorating their traditional structures and traditional identities. They are once again clinging to their traditional identities. Many peoples across the globe are asserting their traditional identity. For example, religious revivalism. Yes or no? Muslim women in many parts of the world have rejected Western dress and asserted their right to wear the hijab. For instance, Muslim boys, they are wearing Islamic dress, or it's, indicators of Islamic culture, such as the skull cap. ठीक. And this is happening possibly as a reaction against the homogenizing tendency of globalization. So people don't want their identity to be wiped out. So they are reiterating their traditional identities. Another process which is taking place is that of pluralization. Pluralization. Pluralization means elements of various global cultures as well as local cultures coexisting side by side. Multiple cultural elements, both global and local, coexisting side by side. In other words, friends, when we adopt global culture, we don't give up on our own. For example, you've started eating pizza, burger, momos. तो क्या रोटी, दाल, चावल, सब्जी, तरकारी छोड़ दिया? ज्यादा क्या खाते हो? अभी भी दाल चावल ही खाते हो, रोटी सब्जी खाते हो? यस और नो? सो बट साथ में अब हम पिज्जा बर्गर भी खाते हैं. ठीक है? सो वेस्टर्न या फॉरेन क्विजीन्स हैव एडेड टू दी already diverse cuisines that we were consuming, local cuisines that we were consuming. But we've not given up. Yes or no? ठीक? Another process which is taking place is glocalization. Glocal, global plus local. Glocal. धन्यवाद भैया. Glocalization means what? That global cultural elements adapt to the local conditions. They change form so as to be more palatable, more acceptable to the local people. सो ग्लोबल कल्चर जो है वो एज इट इज लोग नहीं अपना लेते हर जगह, बट ग्लोबल कल्चर मॉडिफाइज टू बिकम मोर एक्सेप्टेबल सो दैट पीपल कैन मोर इजिली अडेप्ट टू अडॉप्ट इट. आर यू विद मी? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, McDonald's. Globally it is known for its hamburgers. But India they have made aloo tikki burger as the most main item on the menu, keeping Indian local sensitivities in mind. Are you with me? अब जैसे पॉप म्यूजिक हम सुनते हैं, तो हम क्या मडोना सुनते हैं, माइकल जैक्सन सुनते हैं, हम इंडी पॉप सुनते हैं, हम भांगड़ा पॉप सुनते हैं, जो हमें पल्ले पड़ता है. यस और नो? हम उसको मॉडिफाई करके अडेप्ट करते हैं. हमने वेस्टर्न स्टाइल मल्टी पार्टी लिबरल डेमोक्रेटिक पॉलिटिकल फ्रेमवर्क ले लिया, बट इन इट्स ऑपरेशन इन इंडिया पॉलिटिक्स इज एंकर्ड इन कास्ट, रिलीजन, एथनिक आइडेंटिटी एंड द लाइक. हम लोग फॉरेन डिशेस खाते हैं, मंचूरियन, बट हम गोभी मंचूरियन खाते हैं, हम चिकन मंचूरियन खाते हैं, हम पनीर पिज्जे खाते हैं. यस और नो? हम पनीर मोमोज खाते हैं, हर चीज में पनीर डाल के खाते हैं हम. सो वी मॉडिफाई द ग्लोबल कल्चरल एलिमेंट्स बिफोर अडॉप्टिंग देम. ठीक है? Had it been only for the process of globalization, only for the process of homogenization, we would have possibly ended up with one culture dominating and wiping out all the others. But this process is accompanied by 3 parallel processes. So highly unlikely that we will be, left with one culture globally. ठीक? One evidence, for instance, woman offers. is that, what he says, friends, that merely accessibility does not mean adoption. Merely because we have access to Western culture does not mean we will blindly adopt it. Any people. We'll be selective in picking elements of it. We may modify some elements of it. For example, he gives the example of Christianity. Now, Christianity has been present in India since ages. During the colonial period, the powers that be, the rulers, were Christians. Christian missionaries were undertaking sincere efforts to propagate Christianity amongst the people. Yes or no? They also denigrated the local cultures, highlighting their faults and shortcomings. All of that. But despite all of that, Christianity has not been able to make inroads in Indian society. More than 150, 250 years of colonial rule by Christian countries. But India still has a Christian population of about 2-3%. That's about it. So just because Christianity has been around, it has been the religion of the rulers, does not mean that it has found wide acceptance in Indian society. ठीक है? वरना हम सब क्रिश्चियन हो जाते. हमने इंग्लिश बोलनी चालू कर दी, बट क्या हमने अपनी नेटिव भाषा छोड़ दी? नहीं, हमने इंग्लिश बना ली. यस और नो? या हाइब्रिड लैंग्वेजेस बना ली. Of course, still a large chunk of our day-to-day conversation takes place in the native tongue. घर में क्या इंग्लिश में बात करते हो माता पिता से? नहीं. जो भी आपकी नेटिव लैंग्वेज होगी, बंगाली होगी, मराठी होगी, हिंदी होगी, उसमें बात करते हो. हाँ, से formal environments, offices, educational spaces, there is a greater emphasis on English. ठीक. So with that, you've earned yourselves a break. एक छोटी सी बात before you break. We end this discussion on globalization with the views of who? Who? Who else? Hey, Ghure. Bapu. Bapu. Bapu, friends, I found his views very good, for lack of a better word. He said that, I welcome winds from all directions into my home. So I'm willing to open all windows and let the winds from all directions blow into my home. But I refuse to be blown off my feet. Meaning what? That I am willing to let various cultural influences touch upon me. But I refuse to be, transform into something which I am fundamentally not. I'll remain rooted in my own culture. And that is what was also reflected in his life. As he said so beautifully, ki my life is my message. So Gandhi was a very well-traveled person globally. Back in those days, at a very young age, he had traveled to London and South Africa. He had received Western modern education in those early colonial years. Yes or no? He was quite westernized in his outlook, for that matter, in his young age. You may have come across that photo of Gandhi, young Gandhi, in western attire. Suited, booted, sahib. Right? But as he matured, and he was also very well read. So he read and was very influenced by, say, Russian writers like a Tolstoy. He also had read the Bible very extensively. He was also an ardent follower of the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. But he remained a committed Sanatani Hindu to the core, and publicly so. Are you with me? So I'm not averse to different other cultures influencing me. I'm willing to partake what may be good from other cultures without losing my own cultural core. ठीक है? ये थे बापू. With that, you've earned yourselves a break. Guys, please settle. And just give me a moment. Now we move to discussing what was arguably one of the worst periods in human history ever. Okay? One of the darkest hours or periods of our collective lives, through which all of us have been through, which is the pandemic. One period of our lives which we possibly most of us would hope कि दोबारा फिर कभी ना आए. Should we really be spending any time discussing the pandemic, given that A, it's not mentioned in the syllabus, okay, to be sure, in your sociology syllabus, and more importantly, it's over. रात गई, बात गई. So perhaps, for whatever it was worth, for whatever adverse impacts it had on our various aspects of our lives, now it's well and truly over. So why should we dwell over, bemoan, lament over, or even think about that dark period? भूल जाते हैं. And let's chill as a society throughout the globe. या should we be discussing the pandemic at all? क्यों? कुछ कुछ चेंजेस हुए हैं. ये कह रही हैं इसके कारण कुछ कुछ चेंजेस हुए हैं. अच्छा, several changes have continued even after the pandemic, which were like in education में ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन को का एक कल्चर प्रमोट हुआ है. वर्क फ्रॉम होम कल्चर प्रमोट हुआ है इन द इकोनॉमी. ऑल राइट, यस. हाउ मेनी ऑफ यस or how did the pandemic affect us, friends? Am I exaggerating if I am calling it one of the darkest periods of human history ever? Is that hyperbole or, exaggeration? As is the, as teachers are prone to, just to make a point. Yeah, was it really that? Why? How many of us were personally affected by the pandemic? Please raise your hands. And how? Raise your hands. Yes, tell me. You lost, huh? How many of us lost people we personally knew? Kith and kin, friends, etc. Please raise your hands. All of us. Huh? So many amongst us. So, loss of many precious lives. And how else did the pandemic affect us? Anybody please share your woes. Recollect your andheri ratein. That didn't come across well. But recollect those dark days. Huh? How did the pandemic affect us? Huh? In any which way? बताइए, ब्रदर. लोनली हो गया था. थोड़ा क्या, डर का ही माहौल था केवल, है ना? So there was an all-pervasive kind of a fear. How many of us started feeling lonely, or there were bouts, periods when we felt lonely, though we were living with our family members, most of us? Yet did we feel lonely? Anybody? Quite a few amongst us. हाँ? क्यों? अगर परिवार वाले साथ में थे, तो आपको क्यों तन्हाई का एहसास हुआ? As in, so only परिवार वाले I was interacting with, so there was no no peers, no colleagues, no shopkeepers, no onlookers in the streets. So our social interactions were greatly restricted to few. वही 4 परिवार के मायूस चेहरे. So you passed your college years staying at home. So you did not enjoy, a campus life the way you see it in Karan Johar movies, or any of it. That is, of course, a very exaggerated, unrealistic portrayal, but there was no college life. You also possibly passed all your exams through those open book online exams with flying colors. Or, brother? What kind of a work is he engaged in, your father? He's in a corporate job. Most of us were used to working in the workspaces, in farms and fields and offices and factories. Work hours actually increased. You were expected to be at the beck and call, like, for a longer Zoom meetings and bebaat ki Zoom meetings. Bitya, very nice phase. Wow. किनसे? मम्मी पापा के साथ समय स्पेंड करने का सुनहरा मौका प्रोवाइड किया पैंडेमिक ने. How many of us you see this silver lining that we really spend more time with family, which we otherwise never did, since everybody was so busy in their own routines and lives. किसी बहाने परिवार वालों के से बातचीत हो गई. Did any of us have that, share that experience and sentiment? अरे you to have said only. Others, So a lot of fathers became like hands-on and took a more greater role, greater parenting role. और बताइए, बिटिया. She went into deep thought. How many of us became more philosophical? Wondering or contemplating the, larger questions of life and existence. कि हम क्यों आए हैं? क्या क्षण भर का जीवन है? इस फ्लीटिंग लाइफ का पर्पस क्या है? क्या ये करियर वरियर छोटी चीजें, इनके लिए मैं जी रही हूं या जी रहा हूं? सॉरी, लास्ट वाला सोचा था. और बताइए. सो आर मोड्स ऑफ थॉट ऑल्सो चेंज्ड. फैमिली इंटरैक्शंस चेंज. धन्यवाद भैया. और क्या? एजुकेशन का पैटर्न चेंज्ड. और बताइए. डबल बर्डन ऑन मदर्स. ये पढ़ के बोल रही हो या देख के बोल रही हो? अच्छा, आपने बोझ डाला मां पे. मम्मियों का काम बढ़ गया बिकॉज पति बच्चे सब घर पे पड़े हैं, है ना. पहले लोग अपने अपने घर, मतलब अपने अपने काम से स्कूलों में दफ्तरों में दफा हो जाते थे, बट अब सर घरों में ही पड़े हैं. सबके लिए छुट्टी थी, उनके लिए छुट्टी नहीं थी. सो हाउस होल्ड चोर्स का बर्डन बढ़ गया. अब घर में इंसान बैठेगा तो खाएगा भी ज्यादा, मोर फ्रीक्वेंटली खाएगा, स्टेन भी करेगा क्लोथ्स पे, गिराएगा भी, फिर वो धुलेंगे भी ज्यादा. हर चीज का काम है ना. बिटिया. ठीक है. आइडियल किड एंड आइडियल फैमिली. बिटिया. It was a psychologically dark phase. But you're not feeling comfortable recounting it. Huh? It's getting heavy on the inside. Even recounting that experience. Brother. One of your friends, both parents passed away. So you tried to pool in your energies and resources, but you couldn't save them. Huh? The entire college. So those were very trying and tough times. And there was a widespread shortage during one of the phases, I think the third wave, second wave, of cylinders, oxygen cylinders, and it was really crazy kind of a time. How about religion? How was that affected? So I recall, I think the Kumbh Mela, one of the Ardh Kumbh or Kumbh Melas was conducted, while for the most part, places of worship, churches and temples and gurdwaras and everything, they had been shut. Right? But then when there was an ebb in the virus, you had the Kumbh Mela being celebrated. At a more personal level, how many of you became more religiously inclined or spiritually inclined during the pandemic? किन को हमें नानी या भगवान याद आ गए during the pandemic? And did you start believing to a greater extent in divinity and praying and possibly performing any rituals, etc.? Share that experience, anybody? Yes? Ramayana was the savior. The daily Ramayana on TV. उसी ने बचा लिया हमें. राम जी ने नैया पार लगा दी. Oh, forced to sit and watch. But you liked it, though you were forced to sit through the Ramayana, but you ended up liking it. आपदा में अवसर मिल गए थे for persons who were working. I got addicted to mobile phone, especially social media. There is a pre-COVID mental state and a post-COVID mental state. It will never be the same for me. Pandemic may have been gone, but China and its wet markets still exist. Bitya? Lot of psychological disturbance for a lot of us. Yes? Yes, we didn't know, as she so rightly puts it, whether life will be normal ever again. Believing in God personally helped her sail through those trying times. Bitya. Yes. Yes. What does it really amount to at the end of the day? She lost her job. So it is the pandemic which has, kind of somewhere affected your thought process, and you have landed up preparing for civil services, which was never on the cards for you. Acha, the sense of security that government jobs provide, and you having been laid off during the pandemic period. So you became more, seeking of stability, security, continuation. So you found the pandemic a very, should I say, overwhelming experience, overburdened with responsibilities, a sense of helplessness, and it ignited a kind of a desire to secure things to the extent possible. How many of us felt anything, depression type? Maybe not clinically diagnosed, but we felt that possibly we are depressed, even in layman understanding of the term. किस को depression महसूस हुई? Raise your hands. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Raise your hands. It's acceptable. It's lovely. It's not lovely, but it happens. ठीक है. Thank you for all those insights. Point is, friends, the pandemic in its impact was transformative. It affected not just this or that aspect of our social lives. It affected each and every aspect. Whether it was the economy, which was brought to a standstill. Whether it was politics and governance, with elections being suspended across the globe. Whether it was religion, with places of worship being shut, with people once again getting drawn to religion. Or the education system. With millions of students across the globe being thrown out of the education system, and efforts being made to promote or shift towards online education. Jeffrey Players. He says that the coronavirus pandemic brought science to the center stage of public discourse. The pandemic brought science to the center stage of public discourse. It no more remained a concern of experts, academicians, or those connected with scientific research. Everybody became concerned about science. Governments started focusing on science. Society at large, ordinary people, everybody focused on science. scientists, and health professionals, they became heroes. That is not a role in which they are typically seen or envisaged. मोदी जी ने क्या कहा था? कौन है ये? कोरोना वॉरियर्स जैसा खिताब दिया. They became heroes for the society. And not just medical science, social scientists also gained center stage. Social scientists. Social scientists highlighted that the pandemic was not only a medical emergency, it was also a social and political crisis. Why did everyone become concerned with science? Because everyone could be affected by the virus. And science was seen as a savior. Yes or no? So everybody hinged their hopes on science. चाहे वो डेटा साइंटिस्ट हों जो प्रिडिक्ट करते थे कि कब एब होगा, कब पीटर आउट हो जाएगा, चाहे वो वैक्सीन रिसर्चर्स हों. यस और नो? ठीक. सो साइंस, बोथ biological and medical sciences as well as social sciences, they became important in public discourse during the pandemic. The pandemic brought about a fundamental rupture in the society. Same players. The pandemic brought about a rupture in the society. It affected various aspects of our lives. From economy to education, to politics, international relations. सब कुछ, family life, religion, everything was affected by the pandemic. Pandemic also highlighted how greatly interconnected we are. It highlighted how greatly interconnected we are. The pandemic affected, friends, each and every human being on this planet, including those who were not affected by the virus. Their lives are also greatly affected by the pandemic. So no person remained untouched by the effects of the pandemic. Yes or no? In that sense, it was a truly global phenomenon. It literally covered the whole globe. It was a truly global phenomenon. So the phrase global village, the world really appeared to be a global village. जैसे पहले गांव में छुआछूत फैलती थी, बीमारी फैलती थी, वैसे अब दुनिया भर में फैल गई है. During the pandemic, the world did appear to be a global village. The pandemic also underlined the need for international collaboration. International collaboration. Between governments, health experts, researchers, vaccine manufacturers across the globe. Yes or no? So in many ways it highlighted the global interconnectedness that is characteristic of our present times. On the other hand, it also resulted in movement towards deglobalization. It contributed towards deglobalization. What was the first instinct of countries across the globe when the pandemic, this thing spread? You stop international flights to prevent immigrants. Yes or no? Closing borders, rescuing your own nationals stuck abroad. Are you with me? It also witnessed vaccine nationalism. So why should, so for example, Indian government was criticized, why should it be supplying vaccine to other countries when the Indian population has not been fully vaccinated? So Indian vaccines should be for Indian people first and foremost. Okay, so it also resulted in movement towards deglobalization. ठीक? A model for analyzing pandemics was developed by Phil Strong. Phil Strong. He did not do it in the for specifically for the coronavirus pandemic. He did it earlier. He developed the model earlier, 1990s or so. But it can be applied to understand the pandemic. His paper is titled Epidemic Psychology. Epidemic Psychology. A model. ठीक? Epidemic Psychology dash a model. He says that when an epidemic unfolds, it is not only a biomedical or health concern. That's how typically it is viewed. It's a health concern, yeah, biomedical concern. But it's not just that. A pandemic is not only a biomedical or health concern. along with it unfolds parallelly a social pandemic. Social pandemic. So it's not just people's health which is affected, but societal attitudes and response is greatly affected. So the social pandemic unfolds in 3 stages, as follows. First is the first stage is fear. Fear. So pandemic generates widespread, continuous fear. Why do pandemics generate fear? Because of the novelty of the disease. So there is fear what might cause the disease. There is fear because of its quick transmission. Are you with me? The taken for granted assumptions of everyday life are questioned. So things which we have been taking in our strides, things we have been assuming to be normal, ordinary things, everyday social interaction, everyday objects become a matter of concern. For example, something very less than ordinary, should I say, the doorknob. Yes or no? डोरनॉब को क्या खोल के कोरोना पीरियड्स में कैजुअली दरवाजे खोलोगे? कभी सोचते हो डोरनॉब को अभी नॉर्मल टाइम्स में या नॉन पैंडेमिक टाइम्स में छूते हुए कि क्या चीज है, क्या इंप्लीकेशंस है, कुछ डज इट इवन क्रॉस योर माइंड? नो. बट ड्यूरिंग द पैंडेमिक दैट डोरनॉब सीम्स a veritable threat to your very existence. So what do? You'll touch with your toes, slightly and try to shove open the door. Yes or no? In normal course of our lives, there is a set routine. You get up. So if you're a child, you get up, you go to school. If you're a parent, you prepare your child for school and send them to that. But those normal routines of daily life are disrupted. Everything is a source of fear. Children in general are seen as the epitome of innocence. Lovely. Yes or no? Uncorrupted. Cute cheeks. The works. But during pandemic, children are also a source of fear. बच्चे यमराज का रूप लगते हैं. देखो ऐसी खुली सांसें ले रहा है, इधर उधर छू रहा है, कूद रहा है. वायरस कर देगा तो? Yes or no? Close relationships. It's very normal in families to otherwise hug your family members, to eat food together, to casually slap the back of. Yes or no? But during pandemics, do you? Everything generates fear. पापा आज कुछ ज्यादा ही खांस रहे हैं, कह भी नहीं सकते हैं, मास्क भी नहीं पहन रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा दूर बैठ जाता हूं, खुद को तो बचाऊं. Everything is a source of dread. Yes or no? And fear. The second stage is explanation. So people want to make sense of what is happening. They want to be in the know. Right? So explanations of various sorts are offered during a pandemic. Explanations may be scientific. Yes? Or they may be religious explanations. Of the kinds that the pandemic is due to decadence and it's a form of divine retribution. सामाजिक पतन हो गया है, तो भगवान ह्यूमैनिटी को रिवॉर्ड कर रहे हैं फॉर देयर डिकेडेंट बिहेवियर. People sought explanations in science, in religion, conspiracy theories. Yes or no? So many people till date, widely, it is popular belief that this coronavirus was engineered in Chinese labs. In many Muslim countries, a theory began to float that the coronavirus was a Jewish conspiracy to wipe out Muslims. In India, the spread of coronavirus was attributed to Corona Jihad. So the Muslims are, Tablighi Jamaat. Had you not heard of it? So there was this congregation of a sect of Muslims, okay, the Tablighi Jamaatis, in Delhi, Nizamuddin area. And this was in the midst of the pandemic, and it was argued that they are deliberately spreading the virus. And then videos started emerging on social media of Muslim fruit vendors doing Thuk Jihad. Okay, so they are, or spitting on nurses and health professionals. What was termed basically as Corona Jihad. So all sorts of conspiracy theories start doing the rounds. But the point is that people are seeking explanation to make sense of the pandemic. ठीक? The third stage is action. Action. People want that something must be done. So some proactive steps must be taken to deal with the problem, to prevent the spread of the disease, to minimize its fallouts, to save lives. Yes or no? And who does it or who acts? Typically it is governments. So what did the governments do, or how did they act to deal with the pandemic? Businesses were shut, educational institutions were shut, elections were suspended, lockdowns were imposed, flights were cancelled, masks and social distancing norms were prescribed. Yes or no? Vaccine research was undertaken, then a vaccination drive was undertaken. Thali bajao was done. Yes or no? How many of you bajaud thalis? Then why are you laughing at it? that is our large-heartedness. We laugh at ourselves. Okay, so this is how a pandemic unfolds through the stages of fear, explanation, and action. Anthony Giddens and Ulrich Beck. You know Giddens already? They have developed this concept of risk society. Risk society. They have not developed it in the context of the pandemic, but we can use it to understand the pandemic. Risk society. What they say is, friends, that in contemporary times, okay, contemporary society is a risk society. Contemporary society is a risk society. Meaning what? That people in contemporary times are increasingly concerned with identifying and mitigating risk. People are very concerned about identifying and mitigating risk. But why is present society, contemporary society, particularly a risk society? I would suspect, intuitively that man throughout would be risk averse and trying to insure against risk. Earlier also risks existed. In olden times, there would, when we were living in jungles, there was a risk I would be eaten by wild animals or attacked by wild animals. Or there would be risk of crop failure. Various such. Risk of disease, death. They've always plagued mankind. So why is present society particularly a risk society? We're more aware of risk. Bitya? Yes. This is precisely what they suggest, that in industrial, or with the spread of industrial capitalism, the frequency, the magnitude of risks has increased. See, risk of disease, death, etc. may have always been there. But what you particularly find in industrial capitalism is what they term as manufactured risks. There are several manufactured risks. In industrial capitalist society. Manufactured matlab man-made. For example, the risk of losing one's arm in an industrial accident. Industrial accidents ka risk. Road accidents ka risk. Nuclear accidents ka risk. ठीक है? So many believe that the coronavirus was also a manufactured risk. It was engineered by men in laboratory. ठीक? Many believe that the pandemic is also a manufactured risk. Another point they make is that, just like wealth, risk is also unevenly distributed in the society. Quite like wealth, risk is also unevenly distributed in the society. ठीक? But the two are not overlapping. In other words, it's not that the wealthier people are at less risk than the poor people. It's not like across the board you cannot make that connection. For example, in India, in many countries, who were particularly prone to being afflicted with the virus in the initial stages? The rich, the traveling abroad people, kind of people, or the poor? The rich. They were more likely to catch the virus. The well-heeled, the well-traveled. Yes or no? So risk is unevenly distributed. Who were more at risk of catching the virus? City dwellers or villagers? City dwellers. अब कोई भी फ्लाइट पकड़ के कहाँ लैंड करता था? सिटीज में करता था. Likewise, across age brackets, who were more at risk? Elderly या adults? मतलब youth. Elderly या youth? Elderly were at greater risk of death due to the pandemic. The youth or children? Youth or children? Youth. Children were found to have a certain immunity. Point being that risk is unevenly distributed throughout the society. Okay? Giddens says, friends, that the present pandemic is very different from earlier pandemics. The corona pandemic is very different from earlier pandemics. Why? It is what Giddens calls as a digidemic. It is a digidemic. Matlab, a pandemic during a digital age. It is the first pandemic in the digital age. Now, digital age की वजह से the nature, the impact, the spread of pandemic is greatly changed. News travels faster, much faster. Yes or no? Fear also grips people faster. Rumors, misinformation spread like wildfire. These things were not there at the scale, or with the speed which we see in the digital age. Regarding the pandemic in India, specifically, we are moving past Giddens. Amartya Sen and Abhijit Banerjee argued that the pandemic pulled millions of people into poverty and hunger due to loss of livelihoods. Because of sudden imposition of a national lockdown. ठीक? they express the apprehension and that in the future people may disobey lockdowns. Since they have lost livelihoods and suffered from hunger, starvation, people may disobey future lockdowns, making it more difficult to contain the pandemics, any future pandemics. अश्विनी देशपांडे, इसी बहाने ये कठिन नाम तो याद हो जाएंगे कुछ मेन. Says that due to the lockdowns, there was a shift to work from home. But work from home opportunities were not equally available to all. Bhaiya, if I am a construction site laborer, can I work from home? No. If I'm an IT programmer like many of you were, possibly I can work from home. The impact of the pandemic and the lockdown was gendered. Impact of pandemic and lockdown was gendered. Matlab it affected men and women differently. It increased the burden of unpaid domestic work on women. Now, job losses. Who were chucked out of their jobs first? Men or women? Women. Krishna Kumar. He's an educationist. He was a former head of the NCRT. Writes extensively on education reforms. Krishna Kumar. He says that during the pandemic, policymakers and educationists during the pandemic, policymakers, teachers, educational administrators, they developed a new fantasy. Developed a new fantasy. What did we start fantasizing about? That there will be a large-scale shift from classroom-based education to online education. But why is it a fantasy? Please appreciate, as Krishna Kumar points out, friends, in a country where millions of children go to schools attracted by midday meals. So it is poverty and hunger which is attracting millions of students to school, not even education. Are you with me? In a society where digital penetration is low, and there is a very real and wide digital divide. Online education is a fantasy. For instance, friends, only 15%, 1/5, of rural households have internet. So एक अर्बन रूरल डिवाइड है, जेंडर डिवाइड है, विमेन की मोबाइल ओनरशिप, मोबाइल एक्सेस इज मच लेस देन दैट ऑफ men. Only 15% rural households have internet. जेंडर डिवाइड है, क्लास डिवाइड है, रीजनल डिवाइड है, इन टर्म्स ऑफ डिवाइस ओनरशिप, इंटरनेट एक्सेस. ठीक. दीपांकर गुप्ता. He says कि हम सस्ते में छूट गए. The death toll of the last pandemic, which was the Spanish flu, 1918, was far more than that of the corona pandemic. Two to three times as many people died back then. But governments back then did not impose any national lockdowns during the Spanish flu 1918. But during the present pandemic, very swift, large-scale measures were taken by governments, like imposing complete lockdowns. Why? What has changed? Democracy. Democracy has spread because of the spread of democracy. In a democracy, friends, every life matters. So, with the spread of the democratic ideals across the globe, saving lives of the citizens has become a key concern for governments, and hence prompt, stern decisions such as imposing national lockdowns to save lives. Another thing that the pandemic, one thing that the pandemic has done, Gupta, that it has increased focus and attention on the public healthcare system. Increase the attention on the public healthcare delivery system. See, health or the public healthcare infrastructure has never been a political issue in India till now. It has never been, something people vote on the basis of. It has never been a talking point. But that has changed with the pandemic. So now public health infrastructure has become everybody's concern. It has become everybody's common concern. Lastly, Gupta says that the pandemic provides an opportune moment for the government to launch a national campaign against spitting, थूकने के खिलाफ एक राष्ट्रीय अभियान. A national campaign against spitting can be launched. Why? Because the pandemic, people were wearing masks, and the mask serves as a spit inhibitor. He actually coins that term. You can't thuko with a mask on. So you can, possibly bring about behavioral change. And the kind of behavioral change we have tried to bring about as regards open defecation. A similar national level campaign can perhaps be launched during these trying times against spitting. ठीक? बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. ठीक है, थैंक यू. थैंक यू बेटे. A national campaign against spitting. Anjali, you're asking about what was the fantasy that Krishna Kumar was talking about? That we will be able to shift from classroom teaching to online teaching. But you cannot do so. Why is it a fantasy? Because you can't do so with the very poor digital infrastructure and the very wide digital divides in our society. Dipankar Gupta's second point, Harman, was that there is now intensified focus on the state of public healthcare infrastructure, which has earlier never received any attention. So I hope that addresses Anjali and Harman. Who was with Amartya Sen? Harman, it was Abhijit Banerjee.